Yeah, from my understanding of, let's take it loud. From my understanding of like reading your website and looking at all the debates and all the Q&A, I get the impression that evolution, if it were to be true, would not disprove theism.
Right.
But and you always, like, when you're answering the questions, you always tell them about intelligent design and stuff. But my question is, if Darwinian evolution were shown to be true, would that disprove not theism but
So he's making what William Lane Craig is doing is making unfalsifiable claims, saying that if evolution were proven to be true, that it would not mean that the point of the evolution theory is that it's 100% based on materialism and naturalism, and in the evolutionary paradigm there is no room for the concept of the supernatural or a spirit or anything but nature itself. So that is what the theory of evolution encompasses, and it includes everything from the hypothetical Big Bang up until the present, and it has to all be explained by naturalistic means. And so if Craig says that, well, if you prove that, then they make, he's making unfalsifiable claims. The atheist can never defeat him in a debate on these terms, because he can just the thing is that evolution does not exist, so it's not even necessary to frame arguments in these terms. All he has to say is evolution does not exist.
Christianity?
Mm-hmm. I think, to preface my remarks,
so the doctrine or not the doctrine, but the theory of evolution is not consistent with Christianity. They're mutually diametrically opposed propositions.
so I want to reiterate what you said. Biological evolution in no way disproves theism. Indeed, recent National Center for Science Education editorial that came out last week.
So he's appealing to evolutionists, or the National Center for Science Education is a political organization trying to get evolution in the schools, and through different means, through talking to city council members, school boards, and things like that. And if he's a Christian, why is he getting his information from an atheist website? That's what I don't understand. Well, I'm going to read the article that he's referring to. Winning their hearts and mind, who should speak for evolution? So what they're getting at here is more not, they're not arguing does evolution exist. They never, no one has ever proved evolution exists, because it doesn't exist. But the point is that the point of the article is to formulate more of a political strategy. Book reviews and recent issues have showcased a growing number of authors and reviewers who advocate some form of theistic evolution. However, other recent books by Richard Dawkins, Daniel Dennett, and other militant atheist advocates of evolution have attracted much more media attention, naturally, since extreme views always sell more newspapers than moderate ones. Now, the liberals, they're the ones that made up this word extreme, and what this does is it vilifies certain positions, and so so they want to be the arbiters of what is considered to be a wild view or what is, and so this is just a liberal type tactic. Moderate views on creation versus evolution are not in short supply. See, there is no continuum of, creation here, theistic evolution, progressive evolutionist, and it's either evolution exists or it doesn't. Got something about, okay, this not only polarizes the debate unnecessarily, but fundamentally misrepresents it. To break this impasse and move forward diffusing evolution as an explosive social and educational issue. So they're saying that they don't want it to be a hot button topic and to be like in the public sphere and have people debating both sides. I propose the perhaps shocking idea that it is time for theistic evolutionists to take over from atheists as the public face of evolution advocacy. And this would describe William Lane Craig. The stalemated conflict between creationists and evolutionists here, it's not a stalemate conflict. It's just that the creationists have already won the debate, but the evolutionists insist on not telling the truth and pretending that they're doing science, and that, and because all of their arguments have been proven false. At one extreme, we have religious fundamentalists whose worldview is deeply threatened by what they see as corrupting secular culture and ideology, and who resist this at all costs, sometimes by intellectual and scrupulous means. Well, that's a straw man argument, saying that it's trying to say that there are people with religious notions who are afraid of science that might conflict with their religion, and so they're trying to frame it as a religion versus science issue. And I think essentially ultimately every issue at the bottom line is religion versus religion. At one extreme, okay, at the other pole, with scant understanding of and less sympathy for the thinking, culture, language, and concerns of their religious adversaries. So what they're saying is that they should, in their perception, humor the religious people and try not to offend them, and are militant evangelical atheists waging a heavy-handed, ill-advised global war on theism that needlessly provokes their opponents and only inflames the situation. I don't see it that way. I see it as them at least have just expressing what they believe, and I think that people should have the rights to express their opinions. Having seized the mantle of spokespersons for evolution and the spotlight of the media, they drown out the voices of fellow evolutionists who would pursue a less arrogant and abrasive policy. They're not drowning out people's voices. Everyone has the opportunity to get their ideas thrown out there in different avenues. Secular critics like these tend to rest secure in the green zones of college campuses and major cities. Many scientists, in fact, declare mission accomplished years ago and dismiss the creationists as just a few diehards whose time has passed. But the sectarians who dominate much of the countryside and have the hearts and minds of much of the populations are actively targeting their intelligent educational designs at school boards and state legislators across the country. Meanwhile, the non-combatant population caught in the crossfire and not necessarily committed to any extremist faction wants nothing more from them than answers to the great questions of human existence, the meaning of life, the reason of suffering, whether there's a God, an afterlife, and ultimate justice. In this asymmetrical warfare, the secularists make easy static targets. They fruitlessly deploy ponderous scientific artillery. That's a lie. They don't. The evolutionists don't have any science on their side against the lightweight arguments of scientific creationist guerrillas. So they're not saying like let's have a debate over the actual arguments. They're saying that we know that we're right, and we have to mold society through politics to the way we want it to be, because these people are have to be dealt with without engaging them intellectually. That they're not worthy intellectual opponents. So that's the whole con game from start to finish every time. The whole evolutionist science, and only these people, and it's a basic childish argument of I'm smarter than you, end of argument type of thing. As long as the secularists insist on prosecuting the war unilaterally in this way, they will not prevail. The only hope for a successful outcome lies with the coalition. The secularists must ally themselves in ideal leadership to theistic evolutionists who understand the creationist religious culture. In other words, saboteurs speak their religious language and can engage them on their home turf. People that they want to have people go into the religious realm, or people to the public, and present themselves as Christians, and then say, hey, I'm a Christian, I believe in evolution. So they're encouraging people to lie and bear false witness. See, that just shows you how atheists are and how they think. The diversity among theists. Anyway, anyone who pays close attention to creationist rhetoric, so you put the word rhetoric here, and that makes it just seem like it's just incomprehensible gibberish, and it's not rhetoric. It's what would be defined in a debate as an argument. We'll see that they ignore whenever possible the inconvenient existence of the large segment of Christianity that accepts evolution. No, we don't. I don't ignore that there are people that profess to be Christians and accept evolution. For example, William Lane Craig, right here. Fundamentalists. Okay. Since most of their philosophical and moral arguments are aimed at atheists, these arguments fall flat when they are confronted with opponents who share many of their theological presuppositions. Such opponents can cut to the chase, posing to creationists the key question: what is it about evolution that really bothers you? And the answer to that question, of course, is it doesn't exist, and that people are lying and saying that it's science and that it exists. Well, that's a pretty easy answer, because that's what I'm saying, because, well, the article continues, because if it is a fear that life in the Darwinian view has no meaning and no room for God, no, it's not because of fear, it's because it doesn't exist, then I'm here to testify that you can be both a Darwinian and a Christian. No, that's a false testimony. You can't be a Darwinian and a Christian. The Darwinian worldview is a complete polar opposite, or is just in complete opposition to Christianity. And the same people claim that they are not Darwinists, that the theory of evolution, the same people that wrote this article don't claim to be Darwinists. They claim that they are Darwin's ideas have been progressed upon by modern contemporary science and so forth, and been improved upon, and so they're pretending that people that are Christians, they're making a lie, a misrepresentation, saying that people that are Christians reject Darwinianism because they don't want science to conflict with their worldview, and that's not the case. It just doesn't exist. In fact, a better, more intellectually consistent Christian, see how they're trying to associate being an intellectual with being an evolutionist. That's their only con, associate evolution with science, academics, the intellect. Fundamentalists with an unshakable commit. There is no such thing as a fundamentalist. The word fundamentalist isn't even in the Bible. It's this: or do you believe or don't you believe? With an unshakable commitment to biblical literalism. Well, if we're not gonna see, then what's the point of the Bible if it's not true? Just so that makes no sense. This doesn't make logical sense to make that claim. Okay, fundamentalists with an unshakable commitment to biblical literalism, of course, will not be open to this approach. But many people cling to a literal reading of Genesis only because no one has ever shown them acceptable. That's a false argument. That's not true. That's the same argument that I explained was a false narrative. By agreeing with the creationists that such answers are impossible, the extreme materialist self-defeatingly drive such folks into the creationist camp. What they're saying is that people love what they're saying is that people love what they perceive to be as religion. So we don't want to attack their religious sensibilities because then we won't be able to win them over to the evolution. So we just want to use infiltrators and get them to pretend to be Christians and then give credibility to evolution. So it has nothing to do with integrity or giving a defense for their own propositions. It's purely political tactics and subterfuge. What I am proposing is simply that those who embrace theistic evolution, Christians especially, shed whatever shyness they have about saying so in public and in private. So they want to cloud the public's opinion of what Christians are, and that oh, see how many Christians believe in. People will think, oh, all Christians believe in evolution. So, and these atheists, they don't understand that people or that religion isn't or Christianity is not embraced because people want to be religious. It's because it's true, and it's not. We're not claiming that we're to be religious. We're claiming truth. What I am proposing, and the truth is that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, the gospel. What I am proposing is simply that those who embrace theistic evolution, Christians especially, shed whatever shyness they have about saying so, in public and in private, and actively engage family, friends, colleagues, clergy, elected officials, news reporters, and anyone else who evinces of doubt about the compatibility of evolution and religious belief. So they're trying to lie and say that evolution and religious belief, or I don't know, I can't speak on behalf of religious belief because, or I would speak on behalf of, I'll try to speak on the behalf of Christianity and about the compatibility of evolution and Christian belief. Say for that, you can't have evolution in Christianity. So they're lying to you to say that you can. Lack of knowledge is no longer an excuse. So they're trying the same thing of associating evolution with the realm of science, academics, knowledge, which is a lie. It is unmistakably clear that the atheists have no monopoly on Darwinism. Speak about it, write about it, publish your own. So now they're trying to blur the lines of what Darwinism means. The point of Darwinistic evolution is pure naturalism. Objections to this proposal are foreseeable. The militant atheists. So you don't have to call these atheists militant. They're just people that are expressing what they want to express. They don't need to have this tag on them. Will say that it publicly divides the evolution camp. That it is an intellectually dishonest tactical sellout to theism, and that it is inappropriately drags religion into a scientific debate, just as the creationists do. However, it is disingenuous to pretend that all evolutionists see eye to eye on philosophical or theological matters. That would be incorrect, because the real theory of evolution is based purely on naturalism, and that has to be agreed upon. Otherwise, then we're not talking about the same concept or the same theory of evolution, which includes the Big Bang, origin of life, and up until the present. We rightly criticize creationists who obscure the division among anti-evolutionists, as is done at the New Creation Museum in Kentucky. But the diversity of theological views among evolutionists is potentially a strength for us in this conflict, because it corroborates one of our central arguments, the theological neutrality of good science. So they're trying to set up a thing where they're trying to say, that's why they use this, the Bill Nye used this tactic in the debate, that, hey, I'm theologically neutral. I'm just doing good science. And that was what he was doing at the debate. It shows that a variety of religious views is compatible with the facts of science. That's a lie. So that, once again, evolution is not science. So everything's built on this lie. And some of those views may be acceptable to many who have hitherto counted themselves as anti-evolutionists. It humanizes what is now seen by many and held up by our adversaries as evolutionists' rigid hostility to religion and contempt for the deepest concerns of most human beings. I don't think these are mutually exclusive, but that kind of religious rigidity is something we associate with fundamentalist religious groups. Well, what right does this person have to be trying to tell people that their religion or their way of thinking is too rigid? Or think if we are all about good science, then how do we get maneuvered into being known by a huge public mainly for an extreme religious viewpoint? Who are the real fundamentalists in this fight? I don't know if that makes sense there. Religionists, that's not really a word, are hardly they always try to lump all people of different religions into one thing, but they're not making the same claims. So is a straw man called religion, are hardly unaware that various churches and their members have theological differences. They will not be scandalized to learn that scientists also agree on these matters that are outside of science. The point is to build a bridge across the divide by showing them that, surprise, many evolutionists can and do agree with them on many points of religious doctrine. So they want you to get someone like William Lane Craig and say, like, hey, he professes to be an apostle of Christ, and so therefore we should listen to his other ideas. Second Corinthians 11:13, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ. And that is exactly what this article is advocating. Not saying they're not saying that atheists should pose as theistic evolutionists, but they're saying that they should recruit theistic evolutionists to their cause. So you can't be a Christian and believe in evolution, because your whole your whole reasoning process would be inconsistent, because the Bible in the first chapter is all about the creation. It's not about evolution. So if you deny the first page of the Bible, you can't say you believe in the Bible. Just like Jesus says, if you believe not Moses, then how can you believe me? John 5:46. For had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. So theistic evolution is another gospel. Second Corinthians 11:4. For if he that cometh preacheth another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if ye receive another spirit, which ye have not received, or another gospel, which ye have not accepted, ye might well bear with him. Galatians 1:8. But though we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel unto you than that which we have preached unto you, let him be accursed. Furthermore, this is not a false ironicism, smoothing over fundamental differences between creationists and evolutionists just to quiet the controversy. In truth, many, perhaps most, evolutionists are theists of one sort or another. And then that means that they don't know what they're talking about, because their views are sincerely and validly held. No, that's not correct. So there's a lot of lies in this article. Atheists have every right to believe that theists are woefully misguided and failing to see the obsolescence of religion after Darwin, but that is their philosophical opinion. No, it's not a philosophical opinion. The whole evolution is based on pure naturalism. That's why they made it up. But the theists are justifiably tired of having the folks on both ends of the spectrum pretend they don't exist, presumed to be atheists by the creationists, and presumptuously spoken for by the real atheists. Does my proposal drag religion into a scientific debate? See, there's no need to put labels on things like it's either true or false. You don't need to say, the next statement I'm going to make is a religious claim, or the next statement I'm going to make is a scientific claim. You just tell the truth. Let's get real. This has not been a merely scientific debate. It's not science. The atheists themselves, like the rest of us, proclaim this from the rooftops. The scientific community accepted evolution generations ago, and creationism today has none but religious motives. No, that's not true. The motives are just to tell the truth. and they're religious may be part of the truth. It's just a label of religion in that sense. Yet we keep acting as though the creationist phony scientific arguments, that's a lie, can be laid to rest. I have a scientific argument. Nature cannot create life. That's proven true. So that proves them, that's bearing false witness. Can be laid to rest by piling on more and more layers of new scientific data. What they're saying is that it doesn't matter if you give the religionists as scientific data. It's not gonna help your cause. It's not gonna sway them. Maybe that will persuade a few folks on the fence who are generally perplexed by scientific questions, but it is surely irrelevant to most people who do not lose sleep over the second law of thermodynamics or a correct understanding of punctuated equilibrium. That's because what they're trying to introduce something that isn't real science. Finally, is my proposal basically a tactical one? Of course it is. Because the old tactics have failed to achieve more than a courtroom stalemate. While the soul of creationism is marching on in churches, classrooms, political campaigns, and the rest of society. Well, that would be God's Holy Spirit. We have been fighting the wrong war with the wrong weapons. So, instead of trying to lie to us and tell us that evolution is science, they're saying that's not working. Now, if we are content to rest on our courtroom victories as the winners of every stand-up fight, we will end up as we did in Vietnam, or as Sitting Bull supposedly said after Little Bighorn, we will have won a great battle but lost a great war. To really protect education from creationism's inroads, it has to be marginalized, not just scientifically and legally, but theologically. So this is what William Lane Craig is doing, is marginalizing creationism. He's marginalizing the Bible and creation by introducing evolutionary ideas into it. And the atheists among us cannot do that. The voices of other evolutionists need to be heard. That's a weird proposition to saying I'm writing this letter because I want people to believe in evolution. And I don't care what else they believe as long as they believe in evolution. That is wild. Why would anyone go through all that trouble for that? Just to lie. Why? Like, it has nothing to do with wanting to get people to believe in true ideals or anything truth. It's just, let's get people to accept evolution. Okay, to really protect education from creationism's inroad, it has to be marginalized, not just scientifically and legally, but theologically. And the atheists among us cannot do that. And then why would William Lane Craig link this article on to his site? It's saying that he's in agreement with this article. He's the one that recommended it. So why should anyone give him any credibility?
Some ground rules, and one of the ground rules was there's no good reason to create a debate with a creationist. In other words, no reason to give a creationist an extra platform that they wouldn't otherwise have. And right now, most scientists and professors have wised up to the fact that debating is the way creationists gain publicity, and that unless you really know your stuff, you shouldn't be in this debating business. And the result is that now creationists usually only speak to religious audiences in churches or to small groups on a campus of their own followers, which is fine. We're happy to leave it that way. It would be nice if there wasn't any more such debating going on. However, there are two forms in which these debates take.
So what they're saying here is stifle your opponent's ability to be heard. Like, so they don't want other atheists to hear about creation science.
Another way, and that is, one is on radio and TV talk shows.
Because my proof is very simple. My proof for God, or that evolution doesn't exist, is life reproduces after its own kinds, and nature doesn't create life, which is implied in the first statement. So life reproduces life after its own kind proves evolution false. One quick statement. There's all sorts of other interesting areas to go off on and talk about different topics about science and so forth. But when it boil it down, is it's that one statement alone proves evolution false, and that should be, as soon as you walk out the door or go to a park, that should be self-evident to you. Just like Romans 1:20, the things of creation are clearly seen. In Genesis it says life reproduces after its own kind, and also nature cannot create life. So these are, but there's other people who, for instance, like Ken Ham in Answers in Genesis, who uses different types of arguments, and his motives seem to be just as good, like wanting to show that evolution doesn't exist. But what he made the error of doing was calling evolution historical science and giving evolution as if it's just a different way of looking at the past, when in reality it doesn't exist. So different, not the best way to approach to just prove evolution. That's different people have different opinions.
And the other is before school boards and so forth. So some of the same skills that you work out for dealing with the creationist polemic in one area is useful in another. And so long as there were school board battles to be fought, so long as there were talk shows to appear on, then the same approach had to be made. All right, so once you've got in your head the first don't, then the second of all, the second situation.
Well, why not just tell the truth about what you're claiming? Why use these tactics? Like, it's because they don't have the truth on their side.
Is that many people get suckered into these debates. And we've got an article coming out in the journal I edit called Creation Evolution.
Don't dialogue with people, in other words.
Don't
dialogue with people that disagree with you. Just try to discredit them through theological means by bringing in imposters into their various denominations to pretend that they're religious or whatever, or through the court systems, the legal systems, or through media. Just a big, huge brainwash campaign.
Issue called "I Was Suckered into a Debate and Survived," and it's all the story of how someone was suckered into a debate. He started out; he was just going to give an informal talk to a group of a religious campus group talking about religion and science, and he was just going to speak informally. And before he knew it, there was a major creationist contender who just happened to be coming into town, and all of a sudden it was before a big public audience, and the public was invited, and it was a big affair. So then you have to know what to do. And many times people have called me frantically. They've been on vacation and they come back, and the head of their department has arranged one of these debates for them, and so now they don't know what to do. So the creationist hired gun is coming in from San Diego or some other place. So fortunately, there are a few of our own out-of-town hired guns so that we can bring them in to counter them. So this has oftentimes been one of the tactics to save a situation that can't.
Gap theory. The gap theory is the hypothesis that there is a chronological gap between Genesis 1:2 and Genesis 1:3, during which geological evolution occurred, or alternatively, a period in which a race of soulless men lived. That's a heresy. The gap theory maintains that an indefinite span of time exists between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. This time span is usually considered to be quite large. Millions of years, and is also supposed to encompass the so-called geologic ages. Proponents of the gap theory also suggest that a cataclysmic judgment came upon the earth during this gap period resulting from the fall of Lucifer. Therefore, they would say the ensuing verses of Genesis chapter 1 describe a recreation or a reforming of the earth from a chaotic state and not initial creative effort on the part of God. So some people have the word replenish the earth doesn't necessarily mean, it means to fill. It doesn't mean that the earth was used to it in the past. Where did people come up with this stuff, man? Like, I used to read the Bible as a 6-year-old, but I wasn't, and I would try to, copy the book of Genesis. Like, I don't think I would get past the first page, but I was just, I understood that as a 5-year-old, what this, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And there is no evolution in this story. This is strange. Proponents of the gap theory also suggest that a cataclysmic judgment came upon the earth during this gap period resulting from the fall of Lucifer. So they're like saying that there's this other, or you can say, some might even say, I've heard people say there was a pre-civilization before Adam. Therefore, they would say the ensuing verses of Genesis chapter 1 describe a recreation or reforming of the earth from a chaotic state and not an initial creative effort on the part of God. Most proponents of the gap theory claim a consecutive 24-hour day creation or recreation, but place this after the gap. I've never heard of that. This then may be termed an old earth view as opposed to the young earth view. Oh, it just sounds like people that don't understand that evolution is not science, and they, in order to reconcile these ideas in their mind, they created the gap theory. This, like